Have you ever wondered why the most successful people in business seem to operate in isolation? Steve Jobs working late nights alone in his garage. Warren Buffett reading in silence for hours each day. Bezos making critical decisions behind closed doors. There's a pattern here. It's not antisocial behavior. It's not fear of collaboration. It's strategic independence. What if I told you that every time you seek approval from others, every time you need validation to move forward, you're actually weakening your potential for greatness? Today, we're exploring why working alone, thinking independently, and trusting your own judgment creates more success than constantly seeking consensus, feedback, and permission from others. From Machiavelli's teachings to modern neuroscience, from Renaissance masters to today's entrepreneurs, you're about to discover how solitude breeds excellence, self-reliance builds empires, and independence creates legends. Hit subscribe and stay until the end, because this insight could transform how you approach every goal in your life. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. But true strength doesn't come from showing others your process or seeking their constant input. It comes from developing your own judgment, from trusting your instincts, from being willing to stand alone with your decisions." Machiavelli understood that leaders had to cultivate independent thinking, not to isolate themselves from wisdom, but to avoid the paralysis that comes from too many voices, too many opinions, too much need for external validation. Constant consultation weakens decision-making. It dilutes vision, invites doubt, and slows momentum. Seeking approval doesn't just delay action, it breeds dependency. But this wisdom didn't originate with Machiavelli. Centuries before him, Lao Tzu observed in the Tao Te Ching, "The sage is guided by what he feels, and not by what he sees." His philosophy wasn't about rejecting all counsel, but about developing inner compass, internal strength, and self-directed wisdom. In his understanding, true power came from within, not from the crowd. The more you rely on others for direction, the less you trust yourself. The more you seek validation, the weaker your own voice becomes. It's a paradox that defines peak performance. By working alone, you develop clarity. By trusting yourself, you build confidence. Solitude isn't isolation, it's cultivation. Modern psychology validates this ancient insight. The social proof principle, studied extensively by behavioral scientists, shows that we often make worse decisions when we're influenced by group dynamics. Humans are wired to conform, to seek safety in numbers, to avoid the risk of standing out. We dilute our instincts with others' opinions. We trade breakthrough thinking for comfortable consensus. The person who always needs a team meeting before deciding gets trapped in endless loops. The one who can't move without multiple opinions never moves fast enough. But the individual who can think independently, who trusts their preparation and judgment, who doesn't need constant reassurance, they create momentum. They turn ideas into reality. And that's where excellence begins, not in committees, but in conviction. You've experienced this in your own career. That project where everyone had input, where every decision required approval, where consensus was mandatory. How did it turn out? Probably watered down, delayed, compromised. Now think of your best work, your breakthrough moments. Chances are, you were alone. You followed your instincts. You trusted your preparation. You stopped asking what others thought and started doing what you knew was right. Let's examine this through history. In the 15th century, Leonardo da Vinci produced his greatest works in solitude. While others gathered in workshops, sharing techniques and seeking approval, Leonardo worked alone in his studio. His notebooks show a mind that thought independently, questioned everything, and never needed permission to explore. His isolation wasn't antisocial, it was essential. It protected his vision from dilution, his curiosity from conformity. His solitude made his genius possible. His independence made his innovations revolutionary. He built understanding by trusting his own observations, not by following the crowd's conclusions. Even in the ruthless world of military strategy, independence proves superior. Alexander the Great's greatest victories came from decisions that defied his general's advice. At Gaugamela, facing Darius with overwhelming numbers against him, his advisors counseled caution, retreat, negotiation. Alexander chose to attack at dawn with a strategy no one else would have attempted. It wasn't recklessness, it was independence. He had studied, prepared, and trusted his judgment over the committee's fear. He didn't win because he was stronger, he won because he could think alone. That's the power of self-reliance. Now consider the opposite approach. Blockbuster's leadership in the early 2000s. Every major decision went through committees, focus groups, market research. They had data, consensus, approval from every level. Yet they missed the streaming revolution entirely. Why? Because breakthrough thinking doesn't come from groups. It comes from individuals willing to see what others can't, to trust what others won't, to act when others hesitate. Netflix's Reed Hastings made the streaming decision largely alone, against significant internal resistance. He didn't wait for approval. He didn't need validation. He saw the future and moved toward it independently. That's not arrogance, that's leadership. That's what happens when you stop needing permission to pursue your vision. Nietzsche captured this principle perfectly. The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. But there's a deeper truth here. The more you expose your developing ideas to constant feedback, the more ordinary they become. Innovation requires protection. Breakthroughs need incubation. The crowd kills creativity not through malice, but through influence. Ideas lose power when they're workshopped to death. Vision gets diluted when it's designed by committee. Even genius, to stay pure, must develop in solitude. Think of the entrepreneur who shares every idea with friends before acting, the artist who needs approval for every creative choice, the professional who can't make decisions without consensus. In every case, what could have been extraordinary becomes predictable. A study in the Harvard Business Review found that the most innovative companies have leaders who make critical decisions independently, then communicate them clearly rather than seeking input first. Not autocratically, but confidently. They don't ignore advice, but they don't require approval. That balance, preparation plus independence, that's where breakthrough performance lives. Even in nature, this pattern holds true. The alpha in any pack doesn't constantly check with the group before moving. It doesn't need consensus to hunt, to protect, to lead. Its power isn't in having the most supporters, it's in having the strongest judgment. It shows up prepared, decides quickly, and moves forward confidently. That kind of self-reliance, thinking independently and acting decisively, that's what makes others follow. Leadership isn't consensus, it's conviction. Here's a modern example that illustrates this perfectly. In traditional Japanese business culture, there's a concept called nemawashi, building consensus before making decisions. But Japan's most successful global leaders, like Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, operate differently. They study intensively alone, then decide quickly and independently. Son's biggest victories, from investing in Alibaba to building the Vision Fund, came from solitary judgment calls that others couldn't see or wouldn't support. He didn't seek approval, he sought understanding. Then he acted on his own conviction. That independence didn't make him reckless, it made him legendary. Fast forward to today's tech landscape and the pattern continues. The most successful founders, from Musk to Bezos to Jobs, are known for making crucial decisions independently. They gather information, they consider input, but when it's time to decide, they trust their own judgment. They don't need validation to pursue their vision. They don't require approval to take risks. That self-reliance isn't stubbornness, it's strength. That independence isn't isolation, it's clarity. And here's what's crucial to understand. Working alone doesn't mean rejecting all input. It means developing the ability to synthesize information independently, to trust your preparation, to make decisions without needing external validation. It's saying, I've done the work, I understand the risks, I'm moving forward. That's not arrogance, that's accountability. That boundary isn't about being antisocial, it's about being effective. So how do you implement this in your life? Start by trusting your preparation more than others' opinions. Do your research, understand your field, then make decisions based on your analysis, not on consensus. Stop asking for permission when you don't actually need it. Stop seeking approval for choices you're qualified to make. Don't share every idea before it's developed. Give your thoughts space to mature before exposing them to outside influence. Set clear boundaries around your thinking time. Protect your decision-making process from constant input. That resistance you feel from others when you stop seeking their approval, that's power forming. That discomfort when you trust yourself over the group, that's growth happening. Make them ask, how did she decide so quickly? Or, why doesn't he need our input? Because in that moment, you've demonstrated something rare, independent judgment. You've become someone who creates rather than follows. You've become self-directed, and self-direction, in any field, is priceless. Don't just participate in decisions, make them. And when you do, own them completely. Think deeply, prepare thoroughly, then trust yourself. Let your confidence come from competence, not consensus. This isn't about ignoring wisdom, it's about developing your own. You don't owe everyone a vote in your choices. Value your judgment like the rare resource it is. If you always need approval, your decisions become predictable. But if you can think independently, strategically independently, your choices become powerful. And here's the truth. Excellence doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for consensus. Excellence prepares, decides, and acts. So stop seeking so much approval. Step back from the committee. Create space for independent thought. Make your judgment felt by trusting it completely. And when you do decide, commit fully. People don't follow those who always need validation. They follow those who can stand alone with their convictions. This is the Beyond the Surface channel. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who needs to start trusting their own judgment. Sometimes the most powerful move is thinking for yourself. Thank you for watching.